For months, there has been unmitigated chaos at the Centers for Disease Control. Despite pledging under oath to support the government's established approach to vaccinations, HHS Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr., who I remind you is neither a doctor or scientist, has done the very opposite since being confirmed. Kennedy has fired every member of an advisory committee that recommends vaccines. He's terminated research funding for the mRNA vaccines, and he's revived a quack task force to attempt to connect vaccines to autism despite multiple domestic and international peer-reviewed studies that definitively confirm no such connection exists. Kennedy is overseeing budget cuts to agencies tasked with protecting us from diseases and pandemics, termination of hundreds of employees in his own agencies, and in his short time running that agency, an anti-vaccine zealot fired hundreds of rounds at campus buildings, killing a cop in the process, shattering windows, and terrifying his employees. In the aftermath, the shaken staff, who wondered if their own boss cultivated the climate of distrust in their agency, received neither contrition nor compassion from Kennedy, just platitudes. But it would get worse. Wednesday night, Susan Monarez, who is a Trump nominee, was confirmed only 3 weeks ago as the director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. She was fired by the White House when she refused Kennedy's order to resign. The facts surrounding her termination and her outgoing statement by her counsel ought to chill any American, regardless of their politics, concerned with our nation's health. She accused Kennedy of weaponizing public health for political gain and putting millions of American lives at risk by purging health officials from government. The statement went on to say, quote, when she refused to rubber stamp unscientific, reckless directives and fire dedicated health experts, she chose protecting the public over serving a political agenda. For that reason, she was targeted. But again, it gets worse. Ms. Monarez is just the latest adult in the room that has been pushed out of the CDC by the tinfoil hat crowd. All these following people have decades of experience there and are universally considered to be the gold standard. The head of the agency's Respiratory Illness and Immunization Division also resigned when Kennedy and friends insisted on removing coronavirus vaccine recommendations, which would threaten the lives of the youngest Americans and also pregnant people. The CDC's chief medical officer also felt she could no longer do her job under Kennedy's leadership. Deborah Howery said, quote, vaccines save lives. This is an indisputable, well-established scientific fact. Recently, the overstating of risk, she went on to say, and the rise of misinformation have cost lives, as demonstrated by the highest number of U.S. measles in 30 years and the violent attack on our agency, end quote. The head of the infectious disease response at the CDC, Dan Jernigan, he also announced he's quitting, as did Dr. Jennifer Layden, who's the head of the public health data. With all this, senators from both political parties are extremely concerned. The CDC, NIH, and other health agencies, they are the crown jewels of a system developed over generations that is the envy of the world. Even Trump, yes, Trump himself, rightfully touted the amazing accomplishments of Operation Warp Speed in his first term that developed a COVID vaccine that saved millions and millions of lives.
Operation Warp Speed, people say, is one of the greatest achievements ever in politics or in the military, because it was almost a military procedure. But everybody, including Putin, said that Operation Warp Speed, what you did with that, nobody can believe it.
But now Trump, who claims to be the final voice in all matters, as we know, whose very life, I want to remind you, was saved by those scientific breakthroughs developed in the pandemic, is curiously silent as the conspiracists have hijacked fact and reason. Here's my question for you. Do you feel better today if another health emergency or epidemic confronted America? I'll answer it for you. How could you be? How, with gutted agencies, incompetent leadership and worse, and proven science and medicine replaced by hocus pocus, How could you feel anything but avoidable dread for our uncertain future? It is like they're trying to screw up this country.